All right, Gary Franchi here. Pete Santilli on the ground outside the Bundy Ranch where the federal standoff has pretty much tapered down. But Pete, you're there. You know more than I am. I'm out here in Chicago. I'm exhausted. You must be exhausted. It's been a very long number of days. What is the latest that you can give us?
I'm very, very happy to report. I mean, and Gary, I'm going to come right out of the gates and say that this is literally the happiest day of my entire life. No doubt about it. What I experienced, you know, I'm not going to be able to explain everything that happened. We did record every bit of the footage, but I'm going to tell you that we could have only hoped and prayed that the result that we got would have turned out the way it did. And we did hope and we did pray. We believed all along, as I've been telling everyone, all of my listeners, I mean, you've been telling your people, we believe in peace, but we believe that if the people get together, we stand in unity and we rise up peacefully and demand that our federal government is non-intrusive, leaves us alone, doesn't take our stuff, that if we come together as a people, by the masses, in the thousands, that they have no choice but to listen to us. And that's what happened today. Now, it was extremely, extremely tense. It could have gone very, very badly. But in fact, there was tremendous discipline. We had state and local municipal law enforcement actually stand down. They stood down, and the federal government had to pull up stakes and depart. Not one shot was fired, but we were backed up with a credible threat of Second Amendment. We were prepared to die in this effort, and I'm telling you, we have footage that you're going to be seeing here in the coming days that is so remarkable. There were fingers on the trigger on both sides, at the BLM at us and us at the BLM. Now, let me tell you what the end result was.
Yeah, give us a walkthrough. I mean, because that picture that everybody's seen of the historic line, the militia cavalry standing there at the overpass. On the other side is the BLM, and they're sitting there behind their fence in their little protected, enclave, protecting the cattle that they stole from Clive and Bundy. So
that's correct.
Walk us through that moment.
Okay, that particular moment, if you don't mind, I'd like to back up and tell you what the ultimatums that were given, the demands by the people. On behalf of the American people, Clive and Bundy got up on the stage at 9 a.m. He met with the sheriff. The sheriff wanted to meet in private. He said, no, we're not going to meet in private. You're going to be held accountable to the people. Stood on the stage at 9 a.m. The sheriff announced that the BLM had stood down and everybody just go home. And he said, okay, thank you very much, but let me up the ante. You have 1 hour to deliver all of the AR-15s by these federal park rangers and deliver them to the flags right here and put them in trust with the American people. If in 1 hour you don't do that, then we're going to tell you what the next step is. In 1 hour, those weapons were not delivered by the sheriff. The sheriff never showed up again. Threw his tail between his legs. We never heard from him. I called 911 5 minutes prior to the 1 hour expiration. They never responded and sent any other deputy sheriff. And then Mr. Bundy announced that we would take the entire encampment, the thousands of people that were there, to protest, quote unquote. We didn't know what the next step was going to be. He said, let's go get the cattle. He said, we're going to proceed down 200 cowboys on horseback. We're going to take the dirt roads. And we, the people, took the highways. We shut down the north and southbound 15 freeway. Okay? Now, the militia standoff, okay, the 15 freeway north and southbound were shut down. We essentially went from several thousand protesters, participants in this event at the camp at Bundy Ranch, and were joined by tens of thousands of people on the freeway that were literally watching this thing take place. So we had the freeway shut down. We had pressure placed upon the BLM. They had to remain constitutional. We told them to stand down. Now, let me tell you something. This was exhilarating. Within 10 minutes after shaking hands for the first time with Sheriff Mack and Stuart Rhodes, I had never met them personally. We stood a matter of 25 yards from the gate. After I shook hands with them, 10 minutes after that, the BLM announced, after the tense gun-to-gun standoff, they announced that they were pulling up stakes and that they had stood down. They did not receive any support whatsoever from the state of Nevada troopers as well as Metro PD in Nevada. I want to commend those guys because I'll tell you what, I spoke to them personally. That yes, they were doing their jobs, but they were not going to participate in anything unconstitutional.
Well, let me ask you this, Pete, because there were photographs of SWAT trucks that were apparently prepping for some sort of confrontation. They were circulating through social media. I don't have any confirmation of where they were from, who was the municipal entity behind those. I mean, they were Bearcats. They were you know, the Bearcats that were handed out to all the municipal police departments. So do you know who was behind those?
I do, and this is how we confirmed it. We were not going by the rumor mill. One of our GMN broadcasters and investigative journalist, his name is Luca Zanna. We said we're not going to go by rumors. He drove down there and spoke with them personally. Metro PD was asked to stand by in the event, okay? But I'm going to tell you this. You hear of armored vehicles. It's a little bit scary thought. Was the government going to be, you know, escalating the issue? And in fact, I didn't believe that. I personally witnessed and spoke to law enforcement, even the ones, Luca Zanna spoke to the ones that were in the armored vehicles. They were asked to be on standby just in case. And yes, I would say for crowd safety issues, that was the appropriate thing to do. Because I'll tell you what, at a moment's notice, if somebody even made a mistake, Gary, if one person pulled the trigger, it would have been a very disastrous situation. Law enforcement would have had to respond to control the situation, and a lot of people would have died today. Now, were they interested in being aggressive and saying they had a plan to come in there and bust everything up? Sir, I'm pleased to report this. We totally outnumbered them. That we, the people, stood in the tens of thousands, including who was in traffic. It was a crowd safety issue. They had to stand down. Regardless of what their plans were, they couldn't have done it effectively without a tremendous loss of life. So, Metro PD is who had the armored vehicles, okay? And we did confirm that on the ground. They just said, we're just here to stand by. We're just doing our job. We understand what you're doing. Thank you very much. They were very, very appreciative of what we were doing.
So then walk us through the moment that the cattle was released from the BLM. I mean, I've been reading reports now that there are confirmed dead cattle. Can you confirm that?
There are confirmed dead cattle because, quite frankly, even the corralling of those cattle by helicopter was abusive to the animals. The Bundy family, since 1877, have never gone out and wrestled up cattle and stressed their cattle out to that point. You just don't run cattle like that. They die as a result of that. They were using helicopters to bring them in. So by the time you get a stressed cattle into a pen like that, they probably would have died or been under such stress that they would have died in those pens. And yes, in fact, there were dead animals in those pens. They have been negligent in the way they've been taking care of. They have not taken care of those cattle, obviously. So yes, there were dead cattle.
So how is the BLM going to be held accountable for the deaths of those cattle?
You know, I mean, that's obviously outside of my realm of influence. They must be held accountable for their unconstitutional actions to begin with. Really, at the highest levels. Gary, I want to tell you, tomorrow I'm going to break on Fox News bombshell audio from the conversation that I had with the chief that was in charge. He was the actually special agent in charge of the entire Utah and Nevada sphere of influence. He was in charge of this operation. When I asked him the day before, I said, you're going to have an opportunity to either stand with the Constitution and with the American people, okay? And when they come to have the cattle released, stand down for crowd safety issues, right? For the safety of the American public, be constitutional. Make a decision in favor of the Constitution. He at that point said, that ain't going to happen. And I said, I want to give you this opportunity and put you on notice that if you are unconstitutional and anybody gets hurt, we're going to place you under citizen's arrest and take you away on the spot. He said, you're not going to do that. I said, yes, we are. I'm not going to challenge you this way. You're going to have to be held accountable to the law. And if we're the last line of defense, we, the citizens, will place you under arrest. We have this bombshell audio that we're going to be releasing to the public, and it's going to be absolutely disgusting to hear this man as a representative of the federal government and his attitude, okay? His attitude, as he said, he has, I said we had the people on our side. He said, well, you don't have enough people. I have the law on my side, he said. That's what he responded.
Interesting.
He believed he was being constitutional and didn't care less about him being in jeopardy. He thought he had the federal government to protect him and allow him to skirt the Constitution.
Well, tomorrow's definitely going to be a big day. Tell me about Pete, what we've been noticing here is the lack of media throughout the week. CNN made a blurb, and they biased on the side of the government. Fox was there. We did see a report from them. How has the media been treating this that you have seen on the ground there? Because everyone I talk to, they're in the dark. The American people don't even know this is happening.
That's rather unfortunate. Well, they're going to know now. Okay, they will know now. There are satellite trucks at the compound right now, and I need to get back to them. You know, obviously I'm not in a hurry, but I want to make sure we provide good coverage. I'm going to be headed back. We're going to do overnight. I'm actually scheduled to go on Fox starting at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. We will be getting international coverage because of the success that we had today. So,
yeah. I was getting reports from Australia just a couple days ago, Australian press, but again, the American media, total blackout. And for days and days and days, and now they're finally coming around. But after the case has essentially been closed to a degree, I don't want to say it's completely over with. I mean, there's still a lot of loose ends that need to be tied up and resolutions to come to. But Pete, we're running out of time, and I know you've got to get back to your watch. So, any final thoughts before we go?
We're going to enjoy the success. We're going to use this as a model for what the American public can do. Yes, here at Bundy Ranch, it was very effective. Obviously, a very, very tense moment. It was backed up by a credible threat of Second Amendment, and people were prepared to lay their lives on the line for these principles that we fought for, that our founding fathers fought for. What I will say is that we can't let our guard down. The FBI, just as with Waco, something happened with Waco. There was a first wave, and the second wave that came through made it the tragedy. The FBI has now gotten involved, as I understand it. It's been reported to me, and that the DHS and the FBI may be coming back to retaliate. In fact,
that's certainly a reality we have to keep our eyes open for. And
yes.
Thank you for being there on the ground, for providing this coverage, keeping us informed, keeping our viewers informed. We definitely owe you a debt of gratitude for putting your life on the line just to get the facts out to the American people. So our hats are off to you specifically, and to every person there who has stood on the line for the rights of all Americans, really, in this historic moment in America. This is a historic moment. There's no question about it. It's a historic moment for the American people, for liberty, as well as the independent media. So I just want to make that very clear. Pete, thank you so much.
Thank you, and no need to thank me for doing this. I feel an obligation. I think it's an important time in our nation's history. Thank you for your coverage and spreading the word.